Hello. I guess I could call this a 4 subscriber special. Uh, what I wanted to talk about is a theory I had. Well, it starts with a question. You know Q from Star Trek? Why is it that he bothers Picard and he bothers, oh shit, what's his name now? I've gone and forgotten the captain from Deep Space Nine, but basically he bothers your major captains. He bothers Janeway quite a bit too. Oh, because Enterprise touches on everything. Even though I haven't watched Enterprise, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Q episode on there. But what I'm wondering is, how come we never see Q in the original series, other than the obvious answer that they hadn't thought of Q yet? Well, I have a theory that maybe Q was in the original series. Um, I'll just bring up another show. You ever watch Fantasy Island? Yeah. The plane. Okay. In Fantasy Island, everybody gets their greatest fantasy, their heart's desire. And Ricardo Montalban is, the guy who runs Fantasy Island. Now, I'll go like the crazy comedy route with this because this is where I came up with the idea to begin with. Fantasy Island created the Star Trek universe. Like Ricardo Montalban wanted to be, the big villain in the future, and so he became Khan and created the entire Star Trek universe. That's where I started with this idea. But then I thought about it, and it's like, the whole Fantasy Island thing is actually pretty close to how, kind of how Q kind of functions. Like, if Q just wanted to be kind of boring and lame and just, like, give everyone what they wanted in a small island, that's pretty much fucking Fantasy Island right there. But I was thinking, what if Q wanted to interact with Kirk, but not in such an obvious way, because Kirk is really good at that whole bluffing supreme being thing, like, oh, you're gonna kill us all and blow up the ship, like, I dare you to face our human ingenuity and harden our will, go ahead and destroy it, but it won't change it. I'm not saying that's a quote or anything, but I mean, like, the way Kirk will just kind of, stare him down, like, in the no-win scenario, and just be like, alright, yeah, whatever, I call you on it, I'll call your bluff. And I know Q wouldn't like that, He doesn't want to blow up the fucking Enterprise because, like, that's boring. He wants to watch fucking Kirk do his thing. And so I was thinking, what if. Let's go back to that Fantasy Island thing and say Ricardo Montalban is a Q. And he creates the whole Star Trek everything just as amusement. And so he can be Khan and meet Kirk and, like, fuck with him, but not in a supreme being way, but in a superior being way, but not something that couldn't be overcome, something that would just be, just more fun to play around with. And then I got to thinking, it's like, well, sure, you could go and do the whole stupid Fantasy Island connection, but never mind that whole idea. Like, there's a whole bunch of characters in the original series that are so powerful that you could easily argue that they might actually be some form of Q. Just, like, who says they always want to walk around looking like people? That's kind of a weird concept, I always thought, with the Q. I don't think it ever really came up. If anyone ever asked them, like, is that your real form? Or do you look like fucking Space Squid or something? I never really thought all that much into it because it doesn't really matter. They can just be humanoids that are extremely advanced. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. But I was thinking, like I was saying before, like maybe he took other forms to have more fun with fucking Captain Kirk there. And so you could make the argument that like there's the rock monster who fucking brought like Abraham Lincoln and all those people from fucking different societies together. I mean, like that's basically a Q episode in the original series anyways. So it's like, even though Q's not there, all the same things gonna happen anyways. And a lot of those things are not really brought up again in later on series. You know, like they have those from the pilot episode. There's the guys who create illusions that are so potent they're basically like reality. The man trap aliens. I can't even remember what they're called. The episode where Spock smiles. I think there's something about that in there that like you're not allowed to make any contact with them at all. Like the Federation's like dead set against it. But I guess the idea behind that is because there is some kind of control with that. But where the Q, you can't really forbid people from meeting the Q because no one really goes to the Q. The Q kind of come to you, you know. So it's not really in your control. I do kind of wonder what the Federation's standpoint is on Q. But yeah, anyways, that was the whole fucking theory there, is that the Q, or Q, maybe even just the regular Q that we know from Next Generation, or any Q, or just a Q, was in the original series, just in some other form. Or you want to go the extreme kind of half comedy route and say fucking Q from Fantasy Island created the Star Trek universe, Ricardo Montalban Q, and is also Khan, which is cool because then Q, you could say Q was in a Star Trek movie. You know, he was in the best one. He was in fucking Wrath of Khan. And, stretch that out even more is that he's still Khan in Into Darkness. Like, even though it's an alternate timeline, he just kind of goes with the flow kind of thing. And it's like, he wanted more fun adventures anyways. And in some ways, that would almost make more sense. Because, like, they have this whole stupid build-up between Khan and Kirk in Into Darkness, even though they don't know each other. Like, they should give a fuck. But I mean, like, maybe on some level, Q Khan really does know Kirk. But honestly, that idea goes a lot farther out of the way because he's a fucking Khan. The more I think about him, he's kind of a dick. Because it's like, oh, I leave you to your devices on this planet, an idea that you're perfectly okay with, and then come the movie when shit went south, you're just pissed and you want revenge. It's like, wow, fucking... Like, I understand that, you lost your fucking everything. But, I mean, you tried to fucking kill Kirk, and this was the alternative to you fucking, getting locked up or whatever. I need to watch Space Seed again. But yeah, like I say, the Q in the original series, think about it, makes a lot of sense, because it's like, why didn't Q fuck with Kirk? He did. He totally did fuck with Kirk, and it just explains that whole gap in Q fucking time. There was no gap. They were there. They were just in a different form. Yeah. Okay, I rambled on said the same thing over and over, but yeah. 4 subscribers! I'll try to do fucking better videos from now on here. That was kind of shitty. I don't mean to ramble on.